Welcome to our deep dive into the world of resale. Specifically, we're looking at fashion and sneakers today.
Yeah,
You sent over some really fascinating articles and data points. I'm excited to kind of unpack it all and yeah, dive in.
absolutely.
It seems like you're really interested in kind of figuring out what's driving this whole trend and what it means, going forward.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how resale is going from something that was kind of like a niche thing,
Right.
to this major, part of the whole retail landscape. And what's really interesting to me is that it's not just about like, finding a good deal anymore. It's
Yeah.
really kind of reflecting a bigger change, culturally, especially with Gen Z.
Yeah, and one of the articles actually highlighted that a huge amount of Gen Z,
Hmm.
like 80%,
Wow.
have already bought, pre-loved items.
Yeah.
And even more surprising to me is that 32% of them have actually become sellers in just the past year.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a big jump.
It is a big jump. And when you look at, kind of the data, it's clear that this isn't just like a fad or something. It's
Right.
really a fundamental shift in how this generation thinks about, consuming.
Mm.
They're embracing secondhand goods for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
But there are these three themes that come up over and over again: sustainability, affordability, and this desire to be, an individual.
So it's not just about getting a good deal then.
No, not at all. One report on the fashion resale market and trends found that like 74% of young adults, so, those aged 18 to 29,
Hmm.
actively prefer brands that they consider to be sustainable. They care about the environment and they
Mhm.
want to, reduce their impact. And resale is a way to do that.
Right.
You're giving items a second life. You're reducing waste.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially since so many young people are kind of struggling financially these days.
Yeah.
One statistic that really stood out to me was that 28% of Gen Z in the U.S., so 18 to 25-year-olds,
Yeah.
find it tough to save money. So resale can be a real, like a lifesaver for them in a way.
Totally.
Yeah.
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 It lets them access these high quality, desirable items, but without, going broke.
Right.
It's a really smart way to shop in the current economy. But it's not just about being practical. It's also about, expressing yourself.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. Another report, this one from WGSN Barometer, showed that 40% of Gen Z shoppers go to resale because they literally can't find the styles they're looking for in regular stores.
Ah.
They want unique pieces, vintage finds things that help them stand out.
So they're kind of like rejecting those mass-produced trends
Like
and going
correct.
for a more personalized look.
Exactly. And this desire to be unique is super strong in the sneaker market, which has become a huge cultural phenomenon.
Let's talk sneakers.
Yeah.
The numbers are mind-blowing. One source projected that the global sneaker resale market is going to hit $30 billion by 2030.
Wow.
That's a massive market.
It's huge. And it gets even more impressive. One report said that the used sneaker market just in the U.S. is predicted to reach $53.2 billion
Wow.
in sales by 2032.
Okay.
And it's growing at an annual rate of like 16.4%.
That's insane. We're talking about a market that's worth billions already.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just going to keep getting bigger.
It's really a testament to the power of sneaker culture. It went from this niche hobby to like a global obsession. Take Yeezy Boosts, for instance.
Okay.
They originally retailed for like $300, but on the resale market, you can easily find them for over $1,200.
So more than 4 times the original price. What is it about sneakerheads that makes them willing to pay that much? Is it all hype?
Hype definitely plays a big part. Brands are really good at these limited edition releases,
Mm-hmm.
collaborations with celebrities, designers, and they create a feeling of scarcity.
Right.
It makes people feel like they really got to have it.
Yeah, so it's the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
The exclusivity of owning something rare.
Totally.
Okay.
And for a lot of sneakerheads, it's not even just about owning a cool pair of shoes. It's
Right.
about seeing them as like an investment.
Investments,
Yeah.
like stocks and bonds.
In a way, yeah. A lot of sneakerheads buy with the intention of selling later for a profit.
Wow.
They see certain models as assets that are going to go up in value,
Right.
especially limited editions or special collaborations.
So they're kind of playing the stock market,
Yeah,
but with sneakers.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's really interesting because it adds this whole financial element to the sneakerhead world. It's
Yeah.
this fascinating mix of passion and culture and commerce.
Right.
And it's really changing things, this whole like shop to sell mindset.
Mhm.
It's blurring the lines, between just being a regular consumer
Yeah.
and being a reseller. And brands are starting to notice. They're realizing they can't just ignore this resale market anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense. If brands want to stay relevant and in the game.
Right.
They got to adapt to how
Yeah.
people are shopping these days. One article I read called it like a brand awakening.
Hmm.
Like companies are starting to see that they need to be a part of this resale thing, not just watch from the sidelines.
Totally. They're starting to think of resale as like an extension of their brand,
Hmm.
a new way to connect with their customers.
Hasn't resale always been around in some form, though? Like, what about thrift stores, vintage shops?
Yeah, you're right. It's not a brand new concept.
What?
It's been around for over 100 years, actually.
Wow.
But it's changed a lot over time.
Yeah.
Like, think about the Salvation Army. They started their thrift operations way back in 1897.
Oh, wow.
And then Goodwill came along in 1902. They were the pioneers of this whole secondhand shopping thing.
It's kind of crazy to think about how those early thrifting experiences led to the platforms we have now.
It's been a gradual evolution for sure.
Yeah.
Driven by technology and, people's changing habits.
Mm-hmm.
The internet played a huge role. eBay launching in 1995 was a big turning point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Suddenly anyone could become a reseller. You could connect with buyers all over the world.
Yeah, and then you have these fashion-focused marketplaces topping up, like Poshmark in 2009.
Right.
They made it more curated, more about personal style.
Exactly. Poshmark and those kinds of platforms brought a new level of, sophistication to resale.
Mm-hmm.
Then around 2013, we saw what one article called the Great Unbundling.
Right.
That's when you started seeing these really specialized platforms
Right.
catering to specific niches.
Like StockX and 𝗬𝘂𝘃 for
Yeah.
sneakers, Grailed for men's clothing, Rebag for luxury handbags.
Exactly. They offer a much more focused experience.
Yeah.
So they attract both buyers and sellers who are really passionate about those specific things.
So it's been building for a while, but it feels like now resale has really hit the mainstream.
I think so too. And it makes you wonder what's next. One source talked about the potential for even more personalized resale experiences in the future.
Oh, interesting.
Using technology to connect buyers with exactly what they want. Imagine an app that knows your style, your size, your budget,
Right.
and it finds secondhand items just for you.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would take all the guesswork out of it.
Totally.
And then there's authentication. That's a big challenge in resale, right?
Yeah. Especially the expensive stuff.
Exactly. How do you know you're getting the real deal? We already have platforms like StockX and 𝗬𝘂𝘃 doing authentication.
Mm-hmm.
But we could see even more advanced systems, using AI or blockchain
Oh, wow.
to guarantee authenticity. That would be huge for the resale market.
It would build a lot of trust.
Definitely. And speaking of buyers and sellers, we were talking about how Gen Z is really driving this.
Yeah. 80% already buying secondhand.
Right. And they're the biggest group of new sellers, too.
Hmm.
They're really comfortable with the whole pre-loved idea.
Yeah.
But for the market to really reach its full potential, there are some challenges to address.
Okay.
And one of the biggest is sustainability.
But isn't resale already sustainable by nature? You're giving items a second life.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Less waste.
Right. But there's this risk that resale could actually lead to even more consumption.
Huh.
If it gets easier and cheaper to buy and sell stuff,
Yeah.
people might just buy more,
Oh, I see.
knowing they can just resell it later.
So instead of reducing our consumption, we just end up with more stuff moving around faster.
Yeah, exactly. One report talked about this idea of moving away from a linear take-make-waste model
Mhm.
and towards a circular economy.
Okay.
So keeping resources in use for as long as possible,
Right.
designing products to last longer,
Yeah.
and reducing waste throughout a product's entire life.
So resale can be part of that circular economy, but it's not a magic bullet on its own.
Exactly. It's a tool. But we have to use it responsibly.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of how much we're consuming and avoid just replacing one kind of excess with another.
It's about buying less, but buying better.
Exactly. Choosing quality over quantity. Thinking long term.
This has been super insightful.
Good.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of this whole resale world now, all the potential it has, but also all the complexities.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot to unpack.
Before we wrap up this part,
Yeah.
is there like one key takeaway or question you want our listeners to really think about?
Yeah, I think the biggest question is how do we make sure that the resale market actually helps us create a more sustainable and fair future? It's a question that requires us to think critically, look at it from different angles,
Yeah,
and be willing to question our own assumptions.
it really is. It's something to think about for sure. As this whole resale market keeps growing, we need to make sure that it's not just about, making money,
Right.
But that's also about building a system that's, responsible and
Yeah.
fair for everyone.
Absolutely. And that brings us to some of the challenges.
Yeah.
One report talked about this ongoing problem with authenticity.
Hmm.
Even with platforms like StarkX and GenoT doing authentication,
Right.
counterfeits are still out there. It's a big concern, especially with sneakers and luxury goods where the stakes are so high.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
When you have items reselling for thousands of dollars,
Right.
there's a huge incentive for counterfeiters to, jump in and try to make a quick buck.
Total.
It really undermines the trust in the whole system.
Absolutely. As a buyer, you really got to be careful. Do your research, buy from reputable sources, and learn how to spot fakes.
Yeah.
That's your best protection.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Are there any other challenges that we should be kind of keeping in mind?
Well, there's this whole question of whether resale,
Yeah.
even with its focus on sustainability, might actually be contributing to overconsumption. One article called it sustainability versus consumerism.
Okay.
The argument is that even if we're giving items a second life,
Right.
we still got to deal with the fact that we're producing too much stuff,
Right.
and creating too much waste.
It's kind of like fast fashion. You know how they pump out all those trendy clothes that are basically designed to fall apart?
Yeah.
If resale just feeds into that cycle of buy, wear, discard, replace,
Right.
it's not really solving the problem.
That's the big question. Are we really extending the life of these items,
Right.
or are we just making it easier to churn through more and more stuff?
Yeah, we got to be aware of that for sure.
There's also the issue of equity to consider.
Equity. How does that play into the resale market?
Well, some people argue that as resale becomes more popular
Yeah.
and prices go up,
Right.
it could actually create a barrier for people with lower incomes.
Oh, I see.
They might not be able to afford those marked up prices.
Yeah, if all the good stuff gets bought up and resold at a premium,
Right?
what options are left for those who can't, participate in that inflated market?
Exactly. It's a complex issue. It's not as simple as saying resale is good or bad.
Right,
There are social and economic factors to consider.
for sure. One source that you sent was actually pretty optimistic, though. They suggested that the resale market could actually lead us to be more mindful about how we consume in general.
Interesting. How so?
Well, if we start to see our clothes and our stuff as having, a longer lifespan, as things that could hold their value or even increase in value,
Right.
maybe we'll be less likely to just, chase after every fleeting trend,
Right.
get rid of things quickly.
Yeah. Maybe resale can help us move away from that instant gratification mindset towards a more, thoughtful and intentional approach to our belongings.
That would be a really positive outcome.
For sure. Moving away from disposable fashion
Yeah.
towards a more circular economy where things are valued, repaired, reused.
And ultimately, the direction that this whole resale revolution takes, it really depends on us, the choices we make as consumers,
Right.
sellers, participants in the market.
It's empowering in a way.
Yeah,
We have the power to shape this.
I love that. It's not just about, snagging a deal on some cool sneakers.
Right.
It's about understanding the bigger picture,
Totally.
good, the bad, and our own role in making this market more sustainable and fair.
Well said.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. Thank you for walking me through it all.
It's been my pleasure.
Any final thoughts for our listeners as they continue to explore this topic?
Yeah, I would say the most important question to ask yourself is this.
Okay.
What role do you want to play in the future of resale? Will you be a conscious consumer?
Right.
Someone who prioritizes quality and longevity? A savvy reseller who helps give items a second life? Or a voice that advocates for more sustainability and fairness in the market?
Yeah.
The choices we make today, they're going to determine what happens next.
That's a powerful message. This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.
Good.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.